Call.
But she calls.
You call.
Ooh. What an amazing call.
Cari is a baller.
And a bluff caller.
This is Cari Bershell, an absolute baller of an amateur who wouldn't back down in multiple 100k pots. Enjoy her aggressive approach to the game as she takes on 5 poker greats.
And she calls. Duhamel with ace-queen makes the call. Three-way action on the first hand. Deuce, jack, 3, couple of spades, pair, and the nut flush draw for the cannon. Duhamel checks.
This first hand should tell us a lot about what kind of cannon we got.
Laliberte leads out 5,000.
Guy was the original raiser. Now this would be a good spot for a raise. It's gut check time.
And Bershell makes it 17,000 like it's nothing.
Okay.
Duhamel out, and Laliberte folds. Our cannon will take down the first hand of the night. The action will start on Cari Bershell. She looks down at 7 of clubs. 8 of clubs. She'll limp. Action over to Mercier with king 10. Makes it 1,800. Laliberte out. Back on the cannon.
Why are you gonna make it so expensive?
I think Jason just blushed. Well, at least she's not limp folding. That would be bad.
Those are a lot of chips. I can't imagine that's a legal raise.
Cari makes it 15,000.
You know what?
We're pot limit before the flop, so it will count as a raise, only to 6,600.
Am I getting angle shot already?
Did you mean to call, Cari? Let her call.
Is it? No.
Let her call.
Did you mean to call?
Good answer, Cari.
I'm getting angle shot already. This is so sick. It's way too early to get angle shot. 60 what?
An angle shot is when you pretend to make a mistake, requires questionable ethics.
Darn, I'm gonna fold.
I don't know how you could fold there. Of course, you got angle shot.
Don't think it was an angle shot, but the question is, did she forget what the chips were worth or just that we were pot limit pre-flop? Doesn't matter now. Ship it.
It's on Laliberte with ace king of clubs. Raises to 1,600. Vulgaris, jack tray. He'll fold. Pocket 9s for Eugene Kachalov. Calls. Over to the cannon with pocket 8s.
Cari's in bad shape to these two hands. She's got implied odds for flopping a set, but as it stands, her equity is total trash bags.
She calls. Three-way action to the flop. Tray, ace, ace, and Guy flops trips.
Sounds like something they'd have in a Cirque show. Come see the amazing flopping trips.
Kachalov checks. Bershell passes.
6 spot for a C-bet. No one ever believes you flop trips.
Looks like he will. And he does. C-bets 3,100.
Eugene has what will be a lot of the time the best hand.
She calls 3,100 in last place.
Even if you hit your 2-outer, you can still get stacked by aces full.
Turn, 10 of spades. Kachalov checks.
Cari's looking at her chips like she wants to donk this turn.
The timing couldn't be worse. She's been aggressive so far, and she's going to stay aggressive. Bets 8,400.
Her aggression is going to work against her in this particular case. She's gotten Guy's attention.
She's got his attention, Joe, but what could he possibly be thinking about here? He has trips.
No way Guy's folding.
Well, he's got trip aces, and he's worth a couple $1 billion, so I like your read, Joe.
84. Raise.
And he is going to raise. 20,000 on top. Welcome to the big game, Cannon. Kachalov is out.
Guy's hoping Cari will go broke with a smaller ace. It should be a super easy fold for her at this point.
Good bet.
She makes the right fold.
So Guy maybe even saved her money because who knows, she might have even fired again on the river.
Right now, it's time for my favorite segment of the night, the Couch Cannon Hand. This is where we all get to experience what it's like under the gun and in the hot seat from the eyes of our loose cannon. And the action this time will start on the cannon, Cari Bershell.
Should be really fun considering so far Cari's been an absolute baller.
And a shot caller. King 10 of diamonds.
Suited Broadway cards should be a raise. Okie dokie.
She just limps.
All right, I take no responsibility for what happens after this. I wash my hands of this one. I'm out.
Duhamel raises to 1,600. Mercier, taking his time, makes the call.
All right, well, if Jason's in, I'm back in.
Guy makes the call.
This is Cari's fault for not raising, and I don't care what Phil Hellmuth said last week. King 10 is not a trapper hand.
Back on the cannon.
Cari's limp has backed herself into a corner. She has to call, but now she's up against 3 opponents. No 3-bet, so maybe nothing too scary out there.
4-way action to the flop. Jack 4, deuce, a couple of diamonds, and Cari has a big flush draw. Checks it.
She's done the right thing by checking to the original raiser. If she had led it this flop, she could easily be raised, and all she's got at the moment is king high. Duhamel reaching for c-bet chips.
Duhamel continues, and Jason quickly out.
Duhamel's original raise may have just been an isolation attempt to get the pot heads up with Cari, so this could just be a c-bet with anything.
Now it's up to Guy. Seems like he's at least contemplating a call.
Or maybe putting a flaming dragon in his next Cirque show.
And he lets it go. Action back on our cannon.
This is a pretty obvious call. However, a little poker tidbit, if you always just call with a draw in this spot and always raise with strong hands, it's easier for your opponents to get a read on you when you do one or the other.
Well, she just calls this time, so we'll see a turn card. 10 of spades. Cari now with a pair to go with our flush draw.
Great turn card. Cari could now easily have the best hand.
Checks it.
Fine with her checking back to the last aggressor.
Duhamel fires again, 11,600. And it looks like she's at least calling. She does, makes the call.
Cari's got a decent amount of showdown value with second pair, and of course, she still has that diamond draw.
River, queen of spades. Cari's not loving that card.
That is not a good card. A lot of stuff is beating Cari now.
She checks it.
Any queen, any jack, ace king, 8-9. Really hope this bet isn't for too much.
How about 27,500?
That's a bomb. I could totally see Jonathan playing ace-king the whole way this way. I think this is a fold. Maybe Cari's getting outplayed, but whatevs. There are better spots. To call this bet would be over 35% of Cari's remaining stack.
Call.
But she calls.
You call? You got it.
Duhamel, 8-7. Missed his straight, tried a three-barrel bluff, and Cari picks it off. Ooh. What an amazing call.
I think that sends a message a little bit, right?
And that message is that Cari is a baller.
And a bluff caller.
Whoops. Whoops. Very good call.
You can have all of these.
It's all yours. Ew.
Our loose cannon, Cari Bershell, just turned the main event champ into French toast. Action folds around to the cannon. Ace-10 offsuit.
Should be an easy raise from late position with an unopened pot.
She does, pumps it up to 1,700. Duhamel with 6-7.
Looks like Duhamel might want to take another crack at the cannon in position.
9-5-6, couple of diamonds. Duhamel hits a pair of sixes.
Cari with the pre-flop betting lead.
She's reaching for chips. Bets 3,300.
More than 3/4 of the pot. Don't think Duhamel's going anywhere. Not only does he have the best hand, but he's also got a pretty strong draw.
And he calls. Turn 4 of hearts.
Duhamel picks up more outs to the straight. Now he's open-ended. Gonna make it tough for Cari to bluff him out, even if she can fire the second barrel.
She's not scared, though. Bets 8,400.
Cari is a baller. Still, even if Jonathan may be convinced he's behind at the moment, he would have too much equity to fold. And that's a pretty big if to begin with. I wonder if he can give Cari credit for barreling with ace-high, though.
Doesn't look like he's going anywhere. Reaching for chips. And Jonathan will make the call.
He's a huge favorite headed into the river.
Which is 3 of clubs. Jonathan hits his straight.
Will this be a scare card for Cari, or will she keep firing? Cari is loading up for the third barrel. Baller!
There it is, 13,500.
Oh, there's definitely action on that corner.
That's how you can tell Callie's a sharp player. She found the soft spot at the table. She immediately went after the soft spot, just like right off the bat.
Bob talking that way about a fellow Canadian. That's not even cool, eh? There's only one hand that beats Duhamel, so I think it's pretty likely we're going to see a raise here.
Plus, Bob probably didn't do Cari any favors by calling Jonathan out.
Even though Cari's just fired 13-5 into the abyss, I do respect the hustle.
Healthy raise to 32,300.
No chance she calls this, but I honestly don't blame her for trying to make it look good. The less information she gives about herself, the better. The pursed lips and the squinty eyes are a nice touch.
Yeah, you still have nothing, Cari. Lets it go.
All right.
Hey, show it, Jonathan. Come on. What are you going to show?
I never bluff, you know that.
Our loose cannon, Cari Bershell, pocket sevens. And she'll make the call. Main event champ Jonathan Duhamel, ace-3 of spades. And he makes the call.
Cari and Jonathan both just called out of position, but Jason did raise under the gun, so typically that'd narrow his range to stronger hands.
Queen, deuce, 5 rainbow on the flop. Mercier flops top pair. Bershell's checked it.
Playing in flow.
Duhamel checks.
Go with the flow. Jason wasted no time catching up, out flopping Cari. Typically he waits until the turn to river.
Feel me, flow. Bets 2,300.
Cari may not hate the sole overcard on board.
Makes the call. And Duhamel folds.
Well, at the moment, she's drawing to a 2-outer.
Heads up to the turn, jack of spades.
Board gets worse for 2 sevens.
Bershell checks.
And not much worse for queen 10.
Was that a check?
Yes.
Mercier checks behind. River, 6 of spades.
Duhamel would have made backdoor spades, nut spades. Checking and hoping for some cheap showdown value would be fine for Cari here, even though we know she's losing. Or she could bet.
How about barreling 9,000 on the end?
That's an overbet. Jason's a little perplexed by the meaning of this overbet.
9,000, so much.
Typically an overbet is a polarizing move, meaning you have a huge hand or you're bluffing. Cari's hand isn't a pure bluff, but she's turned her hand into a bluff of sorts. Playing against an amateur is particularly difficult because you have to wonder if they know what an overbet is supposed to mean. Did they even intend to overbet? Do they know that overbetting is even a thing? Look, there's only so much I can say about overbetting, Mercier. The bet's 9K. You make that in like 0.2 tournaments. Make a decision, will you?
I was not planning on folding.
Well, now that he's been over the plan, maybe he can make a decision. Wow, it's a 9K decision. Tanks for the memories, Mercier. Cari keeping pretty cool during all this.
What do you have? And why did you bet so much? I'm just...
Mercier folds.
The loose cannon just out-leveled Jason. Mercier, a baller.
Bershell bluffs again and wins.
She's like value betting like ace jack there, and I'm just like so annoyed. I'm just so bad, and I fold.
You wish her hand was that good.
Right now, it's time for my favorite segment, the Couch Cannon Hand. This is where we all get to experience what it's like under the gun and in the hot seat from the eyes of our loose cannon. Chance for the loose cannon to open the pot if she has a decent hand. King Queen.
From the cutoff, she wouldn't even need a decent hand, but King Queen's certainly good enough for a raise from any position.
And she does, makes it 1,800, gets the champ out of the way. Mercier in the small blind.
Still, it's all right.
Calls. Guy will come along.
Jason just called out of the small blind, and Guy just defended, so my guess is if anyone had anything really good, he would have 3-bet, especially Jason.
9 queen jack, a couple of hearts, top pair for Bershell.
Top pair with a gut shot draw, but this board is wetter than an airport bathroom, so likewise, I recommend she proceed with caution.
And the action checks back around to her.
Well, now that it's been checked to her, she's got top pair, she's in position, seems like an obvious spot for a bet. Maybe too obvious? No, just obvious enough. She should bet.
Makes it 5,600. Jason's out.
These guys have only seen Cari showdown winners all week, and they know that she can make some pretty thin calls. So if Guy puts money into this pot with her, it's going to make my spidey sense go off just a little bit. It is Guy, though.
I don't know about spidey sense, Joe, but Guy looks a little bit like Lex Luthor. Makes the call.
This is a pretty wet board for just one pair. Let's take a look at the turn and see what sorts of draws come in.
10 of clubs. Cari makes a straight.
Gutter ball. Cari's hand is improved, but it's not the nuts.
Guy checks.
Even though it's not the nuts, Cari's only behind to one hand, and I think maybe Guy would have 3-bet pre-flop if he had ace-king, so I think betting here is totally fine.
Here we go. Loose cannon action.
Loose cannon bets 11,100.
I raise.
He's going to raise it.
I'm all in.
All in.
Yikes. All right, well, these guys know Cari hasn't been afraid to get money in there, but this is the first time she's been put to the test for all of her chips. Guy has just ratcheted things up a notch and has put Cari in a heck of a spot.
You got me covered, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
By about double.
I think sometimes Guy will turn up in this spot with ace-king, but not often enough to fold. The problem is that Cari's hand isn't behind very often, but it's not ahead very often either. I think a king is a big part of Guy's range here, but suited kings are a possibility as well, so he could be free-rolling hearts or clubs. It looks like an easy call to make, but if Cari calls and she's wrong or he somehow runs her down, it's over for her.
Hell of a hand I have there.
At the moment, she's being asked to risk 100K for what will most often only be half this pot.
I mean, I'm not really sure how I can put my hand down unless I can put you on ace-king. I call.
Bershell calls.
You call?
Gulp.
And Guy with king 10.
Phew. Guy flopped it, Cari ran him down on the turn. It's a chop.
How many times you guys want to run it?
He puts the pressure on you, though.
The river won't matter. It's a chopped pot regardless.
I hope if he busted her, he would have at least hooked her up with some seats to Mercier.
I couldn't put him on ace-king right there anyways.
Nice hand.
Thank you, same to you.
And Eugene quickly out. Don't worry, the cannon will call. 10-8 of diamonds for Bershell.
That's a little bit of a loose defend.
Flop, queen, tray, 6, 2 hearts, Mercier with top pair again.
Check.
Go ahead.
Bershell checks, and Mercier checks.
Very sneaky.
10 of spades on the turn, Bershell with a pair. Checks again. Mercier fires 2,200. And she makes the call.
Playing cautiously.
River, 5 of diamonds. Mercier has 2 pair now.
Cari River's a flush draw. Looks like she's loading up for a bet.
5,400.
Now Cari comes out firing, and I don't really know what this bet is trying to do. It's tough to get called by worse, tough to bluff out better, so I'm not really sure what it's supposed to do, but what it's very likely to do is induce a raise.
There it is to 21,500.
Big raise. And Cari made a very thin call with one pair when Duhamel tried to bluff her earlier in this session. Jason could be remembering that now and hoping she'll do the same thing here. It looks like Cari might be getting leveled into thinking that Jason's just pushing her around.
We wouldn't know, though. We don't get the benefit of her inner monologue like we do with Jason every time.
Not everyone can be a Negreanu.
Call.
She calls.
You said call?
Yes, sir.
And she's not going to like that.
Brutal.
King Jack for the cannon.
This is a double straddled pot, so making a correct raise is going to take a lot more than usual. At this point, I'm pretty sure Cari, who is a baller, won't play this timidly.
Pumps it up to 4,400. Action on Duhamel. Jack 9 of spades.
Duhamel's out of position, and he's dominated, though he is suited.
And makes the call. Guy with ace 5. Already with 1,600 in this pot because he double straddled.
Okay.
Makes the call.
Guy's a billionaire. He's in. And he's the slight favorite, and as you can see, it's not by much. I'd say even less so with Cari in position.
Flop queen 10-10, couple of diamonds. Bershell and Duhamel both up and down.
Again, this pot is bloated from the double straddle. If Cari continues, it's going to have to be for a much bigger amount than usual.
Fires.
I create a monster.
12,500.
Is he talking about Cari or the gymnast dance monster from Ka?
There we go.
Duhamel calls.
As expected, Jonathan can't get away from his open ender just yet.
I know. And that's why they call it the big game.
What's why? I don't get it.
Guy folded. We'll go heads up to the turn.
Cari and Jonathan once again left alone to tango.
Turn 7 of clubs.
That 7 really doesn't do much. It improves no one's hand, and no one picks up any more outs. It looks like Cari's loading up for another semi-bluff. She is bluffing with the best hand, but it's going to take a pretty big bet to get Duhamel to fold his open-ender.
Fires 27,600.
Scott, what's the name of that thing you use to scoop melon? Only leave off the word melon because that's what Cari is.
Baller.
That's right, Scott. She's a baller. She's given Jonathan the wrong price, especially since he could already be drawing dead. In poker, you're supposed to beat up the player to your right, and this has pretty much been the opposite in the case of Cari and Jonathan.
That is pretty good bet.
Duhamel folds. And Cari's going to take down a pot worth over 67,000.
Go bluff, one time.
Next time.
All business. All business.
Thank you.
The straddle is on, and it's from our cannon, so the action will start on Duhamel.
The cannon is straddling, Scott, because she is a...
Baller.
No, she's just a good, aggressive player.
Well, thanks, partner. Duhamel raises to 2,500. Jack 7 for Guy. Calls 2,500.
It's like the standard straddle raise right there. It's like straddle 2,500.
Shh, don't let him know you're paying attention.
Bob folds, Kachalov out. Cannon, ace queen.
Cari could most certainly 3-bet this if she likes, especially since she's out of position to both Jonathan and Guy.
She seems to do almost everything you say. Bumps it to 11,200.
Because she's baller. Jonathan's got to be getting really sick of Cari at this point. He's not likely to fold, but I'm sure he'd rather have seen this flop for 2,500 instead of 11,000. Jason, can you see if they have any diet soda back there? I'm trying to watch the carbs. This is taking a while. Maybe he's considering 4-betting or folding as well.
How about calling?
That's certainly one way to play it.
Back on Guy.
This should be a pretty easy decision for Guy, one way or another. It's not like it's hard to tell if Jack 7 is ahead or behind. And it's not like he's got to sweat the money at all.
Okay, let's do it.
I want to be a billionaire. So freaking bad. Guy calls.
No pressure.
Interesting. Now we have a pot.
We sure do. Loose call doesn't even begin to describe it.
To the flop. King 4-4, a couple of clubs.
Everyone missed, but Cari can maybe win this if she keeps up the aggression.
Jonathan 7, still good.
And this is a huge pot already, and it's going to take a hefty figure for this bet to not look like a weak lead. Here comes the baller bet.
Loading up the 5K chips. Leads out for 26,700. Is that enough, Joe?
Not sure if it's enough, but Duhamel looks like he knows he's been had.
But can't call. Folds.
Good job.
Oh, man, I thought you were going to do something in this hand.
He's out.
Guess it was enough.
Bershell will drag a pot worth 61.5.
Okay, make it 35.
35.
Guy raises to 3,500. Bob.
Guy, this Guy, 35. Look at this Guy over here.
Vulgaris folds. Kachalov, ace jack.
Man, Eugene looks like he's been put through the ringer this week. He's just like over it.
Makes the call. Over to Cari. 9-5 of clubs.
You can do anything, remember? You can straddle from way in the middle of the table if you like.
At least someone paid attention in the pre-show meeting.
Cari makes the call.
Now, this might look like a loose call, and it is, but you kind of have to defend your straddle here mathematically. Cari's getting better than 3-1, and she's in position.
Flop 8-9 deuce 2 diamonds. Top pair for the cannon. Middle pair for Guy.
Pretty sad when the girl who plays 1-2 no limits got more gamble than me. It's embarrassing in some ways.
Way more.
Way more gamble than me. Not even close. And more than you too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of us.
To be fair, Cari's the only one playing with someone else's money.
Guy fires 10,700. Kachalov out, and it's back on Cari. And she makes it 30,600 to go.
What on earth is going on here?
I could totally see Guy just shipping on her right here. He did it to her earlier in the week. Guy looks like he just might not be a believer.
Just calls.
Right?
I'm not sure if Cari wanted a call or not. My guess is probably not. This pot has gotten very big very fast.
Turn 6 of clubs.
Check.
He checks.
This is a stellar card for Cari. She picks up a draw to both a gut shot straight and a flush, and one card makes her a straight flush. Now, she really should bet this only if she's willing to call a raise all in, and should be considered a semi-bluff, not a value bet. As long as she doesn't lose her nerve, this is likely to be the single biggest bullet we've seen Cari fire.
Stacks a lot of chips. And fires. 53,800 is the bet.
This pot is likely to be 100 times bigger than the biggest pot she's ever played before in her life.
How much left you have roughly?
Ah, she's so cool.
Come get it.
About 80.
Does Guy really think she would bet this kind of money on a hand worse than 2-8s? Or does he just not care and want to gamble like a billionaire sicko?
I think I'll make a nothing reflection.
You gotta ask her what nothing would do.
Nothing would still be in the tank from another hand. And this is not the demeanor of a woman who just bet her entire year's salary. She genuinely looks just as comfortable as any pro I've ever seen.
He folds.
You can tell he created Cirque du Soleil because 90% of that whole thing was just theatrics.
Action on our loose cannon. Ace-10 offsuit.
We know Cari's dominated, but this is an auto call on the button.
Unless she re-raises. Nope, just a call. Duhamel out. 5 tray of hearts for Jason Mercier, and he'll call out of the big blind.
A little loose, but Jason wants to get involved with the 2 amateurs.
3-way action to the flop. Ace 10-4 rainbow, top pair for Guy, top 2 for Bershell.
Cari flops huge, goodbye kicker problems. Hello, Guy's money.
Mercier checks his gut shot.
Guy could really get himself into trouble.
C-bets 4,800.
This would be a good spot for a raise. It's kind of a dry board, but you can certainly get action from most aces. Calling's okay if you think your opponents are super wide and you won't get any action. Sometimes that would be the case, but we know Guy is very likely to call a raise.
If things break right for Cari here, she could be our new loose cannon leader. Cari opts to just call.
I'm sure part of Cari's plan in just calling was to try to get Jason along for the ride. Jason's not even getting 3-1, so this would be pretty loose. Pretty loose.
There it is, though. He makes the loose call.
Guy and Jason are drawing pretty thin. They're each only going to win this pot about 1 out of every 5 times. Cari will win it more than half the time. Pretty good 3-ways.
King of diamonds, and Guy hits a bigger 2-pair.
Oh, puke.
Mercier checks. The bet is 20,400.
Cari didn't put in a raise on the flop, and I'm afraid she's going to do it now when she's so much more likely to be behind.
Why couldn't you put a creamsicle chip out there? I would have called so that I could get a creamsicle chip.
Those chips are worth 25K each.
Now you're getting taunted, Guy. How does it feel?
Cari's confidence is genuine, but it is an error.
She makes the call.
Cari doesn't raise, but this is still awful for her. What a gross turn of events. You can't blame her for calling.
Mercier's out.
Guy's got Cari in terrible shape. She's been coolered, and with Duhamel folding a 10, she's only got 1 out.
6 of clubs, that's not it.
Time for Guy to calculate the bill and tell her what the total damage is going to be.
He bets 50,000.
There's those creamsicle chips she was after, but unless there's a 6 card to be dealt that I don't know about, she won't be getting her hands on them.
Ace-king. Do you have ace-king? No? Maybe.
She's asking the right questions. Maybe there's a chance she can actually get away from this.
Be a bad call. He said it right. I call.
And she calls.
Ace king.
Nice hand.
So gross, and she shows the cooler.
And Guy's going to win a pot worth over $160,000.
Can't fold that. You can't fold that.
Cari hasn't shown much emotion all week, but I'm guessing she's gutted right now.
Cari, you're walking away a winner, but you have to be thinking about what might have been, right?
I'm not thinking about what might have been if I would have locked up earlier. I'm just thinking about what might have been if that king hadn't hit the turn.
Are you okay with your win?
I'm okay. I'm okay because I feel like I played a good game this week, so you can't be disappointed when you played well.